I'm Ursula. I'm usually pretty loud, but if you have any trouble hearing me, wave at me. I am the President Emeritus of Children's Health Defense Arizona chapter. And in the back, we have Kimberly Lewis, who is the current treasurer for the chapter. There are a few books and an assortment of flyers on the front desk. Please feel free to browse through them, pick up the flyers, and so we'll jump right in. Who is children? Oh,
is your mic on?
Yeah, I don't think if people.
Hello, hello. Oh, I have to get really close. Okay. So this presentation is a variation of one I've been doing in quite a few locations. I'm calling it the Campaign for Healthy Family with a real focus on kids, and this is specifically about vaccines. I'm not going to talk very much about COVID vaccines because honestly that could take an entire presentation on its own, and it's important that you understand the landscape of vaccines to begin with. Let's see. Just checking to see what we get. The Children's Health Defense was founded by the now HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And he's doing as much as he can against great headwinds at the department. Children's Health Defense has a mission of trying to figure out what's wrong with our kids, figuring out what's causing the harms, eliminating those harms, and holding people accountable. And they do that through 4 pillars: science, litigation, advocacy, and education. So we're here to educate and do a little bit of advocating. The state chapters, you'll see over in the corner, the state chapters are primarily focused on education and advocacy. Oh, no, I screwed that up. Is there a pointer on this? Okay, so I'll just point. I'm curious, is there anyone here who considers themselves an anti-vaxxer? Okay, a few. And is there anybody who believes all the science is settled about vaccines? Okay, so this helps me understand who we're talking to and how much pushback I might get during the presentation. So we're going to start off with, is this true or false? Vaccines are the greatest public health achievement in the 20th century.
False. False.
Wow. Okay, well-informed group. That's correct. So we'll go through some of these kind of quickly. We had scarlet fever, we had tuberculosis. If you look at the years, this is going to be hard for you to see, but this is 1960. So basically in the 40s and the 50s, we had already seen an incredible reduction in these contagious diseases. What about the ones with vaccinations? If you look at measles, because measles is always in the news, right? Oh my gosh, we were having an epidemic. If you look, by 1945, mortality from measles was basically gone. The vaccine wasn't even introduced until the 60s, the 60s. So when you hear that vaccines are the thing that resolved all of our problems with infectious disease, ask them for the proof, because this is CDC data. We're not making these charts up. 2 more, influenza. Look, influenza mortality was basically gone before vaccines came. In pertussis, you see, there was a little bit of an improvement after the vaccine, but in general, vaccines are not responsible. So what was?
Sanitation.
Oh, give that guy a hat. Sanitation, sewage treatment, clean water, not having open sewers in our cities. So it was a really important time in terms of our health. but it wasn't vaccines that caused the miracle. And that's just a really important piece of propaganda that you want to be aware of when it's being shared. And by the way, in our experience, there are people within your own families who still believe that propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
And so at the end, when we talk about what you can do, it's the same thing that you do as a function of your role in the Republican Party. We have to share information. We have to gently, hopefully, gracefully help persuade people. So, the state of today's kids, this is really the meat of why I spend time going out and speaking with people. 54%, more than half of our children have at least one chronic health condition. Almost 20% have 2 chronic health conditions. I think that's unacceptable in this day, in this age, in this country. We should all be pushing back against any bureaucracy that's telling us, oh, we're doing everything we can. So, what does that mean, the chronic conditions? This chart should get everybody up off their chair to go out and have these conversations. 40% of our kids are suffering from depression. 20% of our kids have suicidal thoughts. If you jump around, 10% have ADHD, 1 in 12 have asthma. And you'll hear me mention asthma again. 1 in 31 with autism. Now that was a number from, I think, around 21 or 22. The more recent numbers are 1 in 26. Those are the official numbers coming in. But if you look at California, and you look at boys, and particularly African American boys in California, 12.5. 1 in 12 or 13 boys have autism. And boys are more susceptible to autism generally, but what the heck is happening there? I don't understand how the whole ACLU liberal contingent isn't up in arms. And by the way, Hispanics and indigenous peoples also have a higher rate than do, I'm pointing at myself, pasty Irish people. So this is a significant thing. There are differences. We can't have a one-size-fits-all policy because we are all different. So this is what caused me to get interested and get active. Well, that and COVID, if I'm being honest. 15% of our kids are in special ed.
Yeah.
When we were in school, I don't even think there was special ed. So this is a serious problem, and think about the economic impact of this as well. I mean, certainly from a humanitarian perspective, we have to be angry about this, but how do you sustain this increase every year in the need for special education? So, well, I was going to pose another question, vaccines are safe, but based on your answer to the earlier questions, I'm guessing not many people are going to raise their hand. So, no. God, I was all set up for a little bit of pushback. If vaccines are safe, why were the pharmaceutical companies granted immunity from prosecution? And I just point out that if you got addicted to opioids, you were able to sue Purdue Pharma. If you were damaged by Vioxx, which I think was for arthritis, maybe, if you were damaged by Vioxx, you got to sue Merck, I think it was. But if a beautiful child gets an MMR vaccine and within 6 months or 6 days descends into any type of neurologic damage, you have no right to sue the pharmaceuticals. No right at all. You do have a right to file a complaint, but you're suing the U.S. government. There are federal masters. You don't have any right to do discovery, you know, where you're looking for all of the communications within the company. So, who are these companies? Merck, and they produce more vaccines than this. I just picked out a few that would be obvious. So, Merck, GlaxoSmithKline, Pfizer, and Sanofi. are the big ones. And what do they all have in common?
Money.
Fraud.
Yeah.
They have all been convicted of fraud. All of those companies are felons, and yet we give them protection from liability for the consumer product that is increasingly mandated for us. So I'm guessing some of you are business people. Where is the incentive to fine-tune your product? You want more sales, you have to keep it safe. McDonald's had to figure out a way to keep caps on their coffee so that when people held it between their legs at the drive-thru, they wouldn't get burnt, because you were able to sue for that. If you don't have any liability to the consumer, you're not going to spend any more money on safety than you absolutely have to. So it's a serious problem. So what happened in the 80s, the mid-80s, this will be the sad part, one of the sad parts of our conversation. In the 80s, the pharmaceutical companies came to Ronald Reagan and said, you know what, we're going to go broke. We cannot afford the volume of lawsuits that are being filed because the whooping cough vaccine was causing so much injury and even death. So we're going to exit the vaccine business. They said, in quotes, vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. The pharmaceutical companies acknowledged that vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. And they just couldn't calculate the numbers to have enough sales to counterbalance the claims on them. Unfortunately, Reagan caved to that pressure, and he's the one who was in position when the 1986 Act was established. So that's why I say this is a sad slide for any Republican group, because we love Ronald Reagan. As part of the 1986 Act, Congress recognized that there needed to be some oversight on the safety of vaccines. And so they said, okay, every 2 years we need you to report on what's being done to improve the safety of vaccines. Never was a report filed, never. And then the committee who was overseeing that was disbanded. So Congress abandoned we the people, the constituents, with respect to monitoring this. What happened? The vaccine schedule exploded.
Wow.
When most of us were kids, there were maybe 3 vaccines, then it went to 8, then it went to 12. But after 1986, you're reading across a timeline here, and you don't even need to know how many, but in 2021, look how many vaccines we were getting. This is through 18 years of age. In 2024. So 70 doses?
Oh, God.
70 doses at this time. Vaccines are a financial bonanza for the pharmaceuticals because they also have the schools. There's a recommendation for what vaccines should be administered to children, and schools are adapting that as, oh, you have to have this before you can go to school. That's not true in Arizona, by the way. We have 3 different types of exemptions, and it's important that everybody understand that that's available to them. But they have 609 more vaccines in the pipeline. A caution, I keep saying I'm not going to talk about COVID, but a whole bunch of the new vaccines are going to be based on the mRNA technology. Beware. Beware of vaccines. This is another graphic that I just have to share, because can you imagine doing this to a precious little baby? That is the current recommendation, 27 doses in the first 12 months. More than 1/3 of the 0 to 18 years schedule happens in the first 12 months. So what happened at the same time as the Act? The Act being the 1986 liability waiver. You can see in the 1970s, the rate of autism was 1 in 10,000. By 2000, it was already 1 in 150 children. And now, well, as we said, it's somewhere around 1 in 26, 1 in 25. It's very difficult to get the data now, other than the horrible stats coming in from California. An exponential curve. Where are we going to be when these children are grown? How can we afford, and it's not just the special ed in school, all of these families, do any of you have any autism in your family? Okay, so you know the burden of the financial burden. What kind of therapy do they need? How do you find the right therapist, whether it's physical therapy or occupational therapy? And there are programs for all of this, but I don't see how Arizona can sustain the continuing growth of all of those programs financially. I mean, I keep thinking that the moral component is the most compelling, the most obvious, but not everybody gets that. And so I want to introduce the financial burden as well. Okay, how about it? Are vaccines tested using the gold standard? You guys. I'm just going to show you a series of slides. This is for vaccines from 0 to 6 months, I think it says somewhere. Yeah, 0 to 6 months, big right there. None of those had a true placebo control. None of them. Hep B, DTaP. We're going to talk about Hep B some more. In the vaccines from 6 to 18 months, none of them had true placebo controls. I think these charts came from Aaron's series, Vaccines Amen, by the way, just in case you want to do what I do, which is put Post-it notes on pages and say, here, I think you need to look at this. This is 18 months to 18 years. Again, no placebo controls. Now, I am not a scientist, but I'm not even a healthcare worker. I came out of the business world. So, my first question, I look for trends, and how could it be that none of these are using what we understand all the pharmaceuticals are using? Vaccines are in a different category according to the CDC. They are termed biologics, which means the essence of them is something living. Pharmaceuticals are chemical-based. And you can go to the CDC website and look at what that means. And it's so shocking because the CDC says biologics are by their very nature less predictable because they're biologic. There are more variations. So we have to be, we have to have a higher degree of scrutiny to ensure their safety. That was the idea behind classifying them as biologics. But we just saw that none of them are being tested against true placebos. So, who is failing us? Is it our government? It certainly is the pharmaceuticals. I mean, they're taking advantage of the laws we write, as any for-profit industry is going to do. So I want you to just take a look at this slide. On the left is a list of popular drugs. I don't know what Humira is for. I've heard of it a lot. Lipitor. All of those were tested 5 years, 5 to 7 years, 5 years, 5 to 6 years, 4 to 5 years. They all had a placebo. Then you look at this side, which is our vaccines. I'm just beating a horse. I prefer not a dead horse, but I am beating a horse here. So Hep B, given on the first day of birth, was tested for 5 days. Do you really think when you have an infant, if there's any kind of neurologic damage, you're going to be able to see that in 5 days?
No.
So 5 days, 3 days. Oh, we got a little more excited over here for DTaP, diphtheria, tetanus, and I can't remember. Thank you. So 28 days and 6 months. So these are the 0 to 6 months. These are vaccines that you're giving your babies before they're 6 months old, And that's how little testing there was compared to all of these pharmaceuticals. And remember, biologics are, by the government's own admission, less stable than a drug, a pharmaceutical drug. So there's a real disconnect in what's going on. I just have to talk about Hep B a little bit.
That's insane.
It was tested, the test sample was 147 kids, but they weren't babies, they weren't infants, they were up to 10 years old. So how is that a good comparison? Followed for 5 days. And you may have heard Secretary Kennedy recommended that we no longer give Hep B on day 1, because how do you contract hepatitis? Dirty needles and sex.
That's right.
I doubt there are many infants who are having to deal with that. And we test moms before they give birth, so we know if a child is coming out of someone with hepatitis.
Right.
So why on earth would we inject anything into that day-old baby? So Secretary Kennedy said, let's quit. We don't need to be doing this until a kid's in his teens, hopefully, or preteen. Right. I'm going to end up combining official recommendations and conversations that he's had previously, but yes, he has deferred it a couple of months. Our Governor Hobbs, who in my circle is known as the veto queen, she said, oh, no, we're still going to do that on day 1. So we have a serious problem with our governor in terms of health freedom. And boy, I'm going to throw out an aside. There is a bill that was floated by Representative Lisa Fink, HB 2248. I'm very well acquainted with it. It is the Arizona Medical Freedom Act. And there is an accompanying bill, HCR 2056, which is a ban on mandates. The HCR is to put an item on the ballot to change our constitution so they can never issue healthcare mandates again. So that gets memorialized in the Constitution. I bring that up because as we're looking at these bills and how do we get them through, because both are, well, 2248 is through both houses, and so how would we ever get Governor Hobbs to consider it? We are reminding her that she has been adamant about bodily autonomy, and in a different context, of course, because it was about abortion, but she has been adamant that a woman should be making decisions about her own body. And so let's see if she can hold that principle consistently. And there is, in fact, we have some calls to action where you can go in and send her some notes. So anyway, that is Hep B and a little bit of the legislation that we're watching. This is just simply saying we've known for decades. 1999, 2020 ran a report on issues with Hep B. So this isn't new news. This isn't a new development. But for some reason, our legislators or the administrative state is not listening to the constituents. That's just telling you about deaths and injuries. And I forgot to set my timer. So I'm supposed to finish by 12:15, right? So we have time for questions. Okay. Okay, I do want to mention conflict of interest. There are many agencies within HHS that are involved with vaccines. To a large extent, the people in those agencies, when they leave government, go to work for the pharmaceuticals in very high-paid, highly rewarded jobs. Also, some of the scientists within HHS are getting royalties on those vaccines. So once again, I come back to where's the independent authority, what kind of arm's length transaction do we have? It's a very corrupt environment.
666.
And I'm very happy that there are children here because that's the whole point of my conversation today. So everybody should know about William Thompson. He is a CDC employee. He was involved in a study. I think it was MMR. And he shredded documents. When they found, this is particular, you see that African American boys' autism was higher?
Yeah.
He was ordered by his superiors to destroy evidence. And on a related note, our parent organization, Children's Health Defense, the chief scientific officer is Brian Hooker. He's the one who will be appearing at our event on Saturday. He got William Thompson recorded. So we have all of this evidence. William Thompson is still employed at HHS. He has whistleblower status. And this is our government working for somebody other than we the people. I hope I'm not upsetting you. Okay, so talking about safe and effective and is the science settled, there are at least 12 studies now that compare vaccinated and unvaccinated children. And by the way, on the front desk there are flyers, and so some of these things you'll see, like this is a chart about vaccinated and unvaccinated. Del Bigtree is a health freedom activist. He used to be on a producer or something on the Doctor's Show, and now he is just fully engaged in health freedom and fighting for the rights of kids who are injured. He persuaded the Henry Ford hospital system in Detroit to conduct a study, which, by the way, the government hasn't done. They haven't compared vaccinated to unvaccinated. So he asked this guy, persuaded him, this would be a great study, and you're going to publish it, and maybe you're going to tell me I'm wrong, which is what the doctor expected. But it's not how it turned out. It was a study of 18,000 children, so that's a pretty good sample group. And what they found was that the vaccinated kids in general are sicker than unvaccinated kids. So you may vaccinate them against measles and they may not get measles, but they may have earaches and need tubes, they may have sinusitis for the rest of their life, they may have eczema, or one of my great nieces has stuttered since she was a little kid. So there are just so many things that can crop up. So this study proved that the vaccinated kids were twice as sick as the unvaccinated. I'm using rough numbers. 5.5 times the rate of neurodevelopmental disorders. What is autism? What is ADHD? Some neurologic issues. Nearly 6 times the rate of autoimmune issues, over 4 times the rate of asthma. I said we'd mention asthma a time or two. I just have to say, I don't understand why we think it's acceptable to be doing something to children that's going to cause them to have asthma for the rest of their life. You have to look at risk and reward. 3 times the rate of atopic diseases. One of the early triggers for me was seeing one of my nieces, probably 11-ish, climb into her mom's lap in tears saying, "Mommy, it hurts so much," talking about her skin condition. I had never seen that in my family or my friends, but I was seeing it in the generations of my family. This is another study. Kids who are vaccinated 4 times more likely to have been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. That was kids who were consistently seeing their doctors for well baby visits, which is where they get all their injections. And this may be the most important book from my perspective, Vax Unvax, because it's chart after chart after chart. Most of the people I know don't want to read a scientific textbook. But what I do, and I have it out front, I put a note on maybe 2 or 3 pages, a little postie, and I'll take it to somebody and I'll say, "Oh man, you're pregnant or you're about to have a kid or you just had a kid, will you do me a favor, please? Just look at these charts on these pages. I will feel so much better. I cannot, in good conscience, not share this information with you. So I've given away so many of those books because it is so easy to understand, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I highly recommend that book, and if you want to come up to Chandler on Saturday, you can get a signed copy. So this is similar to what we were just looking at, eczema. 10% of the kids who are vaccinated have eczema, only 1.5% of the unvaccinated. Look at developmental disabilities. Almost 18% of the kids who are vaccinated have developmental disabilities compared to less than 4%. I don't need to look at all of these. This one, of course, is close to my heart because of my niece.
And pediatricians don't talk about it. They don't ask me anymore about like developmentals. They pushed it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so what they asked me about my son, now they don't ask me about my daughter, and she said they took it off recommendations. So if your daughter or son is like behind in speech, they don't ask about it anymore.
Wow. I wonder, do they not care, or do
She
they?
said that the recommendation got pushed off, and so it's like, oh, they're only supposed to know one word their first year.
Oh,
And
yes.
I'm like, it was 5 words. And now
Yes.
it's like, he was supposed to know 20 words by 2, and they're like, no, now it's only 5 words by 2 years old.
That is very consistent. They are lowering the standards for crawling, for walking, for speaking.
Do you have any recommendations of pediatricians in the area that will not give that vaccine? My granddaughter, of course, is in South Carolina, but she got kicked out of so many doctors' offices because she said, I will not have any vaccine for my kid.
Once again, there is some legislation proposed this session that will prohibit a doctor from being able to refuse you as a patient based on your vaccination status. This is a serious problem. And I'm jumping on a different tangent. One of the issues for physicians is that they are being kicked out of their organizations. So one of the books out there is by Dr. Thomas. His license was revoked in Washington or Oregon, one of those Pacific Northwest. It's happening everywhere, and honestly, doctors are very leery of speaking out because they need to earn a living. So, to your question, do we have a list of doctors? Officially, no. Might we know some? Yes. And there are some organizations where they do have actual lists, but we try and match people up when that question comes up. It's a serious problem. Oh, just more ear infections. Aggressive behavior. Even aggressive behavior is more common. Oh, here we are. Paul Thomas. This is the guy who lost his license. United States, #1 in infant vaccines, #1 in infant mortality amongst industrial nations. Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Quickly, what's in vaccines? Aluminum. Do you remember
Yes.
when, I mean, do you remember, and I'm pointing at my brain, I think aluminum isn't so good for our brains, right? Don't we hear about that when we're talking about these age-related disorders? We're giving it to babies before they're 6 months old. The blood-brain barrier doesn't close until 6 months. So how do we keep aluminum out of our kids' brains? I'm gonna move a little quickly so that we have some time for questions. What's in a vaccine? I do want to talk about the thimerosal because most of us, including me, thought mercury had been removed in 2001. Well, it was, and then they started doing combination flu vaccines, multi-dose vial flu vaccines, and thimerosal crept back in. And there is a book coming out by one of our colleagues, Kimberly's and my colleague Julie Lapidus, The Autism Generation. And she has documented that more than 50% of pregnant moms received thimerosal in their flu vaccination, and more than 50% of young children are also getting it. So The Marisol has mercury, in case anybody doesn't know that. The Marisol is a mercury-related item. So we're injecting kids with both mercury and aluminum. And by the way, Secretary Kennedy has very appropriately directed that the Marisol get removed from flu vaccines, but I don't believe it's law. It's a recommendation. It's a goal. It's an objective. Human fetal cell lines are in our vaccines, formaldehyde, gelatin. I have to admit, when I was working on this, gelatin sounds pretty benign to me, but it has a lot of reactivity. And of course, if you're Muslim, you don't really want to be injecting pork into yourself. And antibiotics. Okay, so what's new? I do want to talk about SIDS for a minute. We also have a flyer on this available. Recent studies are indicating that of the children who die from SIDS, 58% had a vaccination within 3 days of dying from SIDS. 78% within 70 days. 78% of the SID cases were within 7 days of the vaccination. This is another area where I get a little amped up. I realize correlation is not causation, but this is such a safety signal. How dare they hide this from us? How dare they? That's just insulting. Because remember, kids should sleep on their backs. No, they should sleep on their stomachs. No, they, when they should have been looking at vaccinations. The McCullough Foundation is doing a lot of work. This is a pretty fancy graphic. What it represents is about half of the causality of autism is vaccine related, and then there are a whole bunch of other things, including acetaminophen down here and PFAS and all the other toxic exposures we have. So their conclusion is, well, vaccines are the most easily modifiable cause of autism. It'll have the highest impact, so let's start there. Your guy, President Trump, announced the rollback of vaccines, reduced the number of diseases. Very exciting. And it's interesting because it's, I think, only 6 diseases that got pulled out, but it results in 50 fewer shots. Wow. So that's pretty high impact. We're happy for that. I consider myself a health freedom activist. Your kids are rules. That's what Governor Hobbs thinks.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of legislators think, and we don't agree with that. We believe it should be parental choice. We believe that there should not be school vaccine mandates. So, not everybody's happy with the changes that Trump has recommended. There's really no surprise there. The American Academy of Pediatricians is suing. And why would they sue? Merck stands to lose $630 million off of Gardasil alone because we're going from 3 shots to 1. In 1 year, $630 million is the projection. Pediatricians derive about half their income from, well, baby visits.
When they come in.
The insurance companies give pediatricians bonuses if they achieve a certain percentage of fully vaccinated children. Yeah, this Michigan example, 400,000 or more. I have heard similar numbers in Arizona, though I don't have reference for that. Kennedy is trying to modify that. He doesn't believe that a doctor's focus on children should be altered by a profit motive. So kudos to him for that. It doesn't affect private health plans, but certainly does our public ones. Most of you probably know, Arizona, here we go.
Oh, yes.
Multi-state lawsuit challenging the vaccine schedule and overhaul of the federal You know, we haven't even talked about the advisory committee for immunization practices. No matter what move they make, there's so much pushback, to put it politely. So, yeah, we already talked. Hobbs wants to have it within 24 hours. I mentioned Lisa Fink. She is one of the most active health freedom legislators in Arizona right now. She and Leo Biasucci formed a Maha caucus. And so we've had the opportunity to meet, there are at least 8 or 10 legislators involved in the caucus. It's a record year for legislation. You guys probably know more about this than I do because I'm not really by nature politically focused, but over 2,000 bills were submitted. They can't get through them all. Many of those were health related. And so just wanted to point out Lisa Fink because she's saying Arizona's health department should not be promoting a one-size-fits-all policy. Pushback on the AAP. I am very proud of Children's Health Defense because they are suing the AAP for racketeering. Okay, that's, I'm gonna skip through those. We have other plaintiffs on the lawsuit with us, including Paul Thomas, the physician that I've referenced a couple of times. This quote by Steve Kirsch is really interesting because he says that the emperor has no clothes. The emperor of the AAP has no scientific evidence to support what they're telling us. Thank you so much. And I had to include this slide for these 2 words, medical cartelization of child health policy. Sounds dramatic, but it's true. Mary Holland is our CEO at the parent company of Children's Health Defense. She says that the AAP is not a font of science and integrity. So important. Okay, what can you do? Get involved. Wow, I feel like I could have Eileen doing this portion of my presentation. I presume you all know what districts you live in and who your representatives are, both representatives and senators. It's important to know that. There is an awful lot of legislative activity. If you ever wanted, I'd be happy to come back and talk about the subset of the 2,000 bills. I was following roughly 25 that were directly health related. So there are a lot of them. Spread the word, talk with your friends, organize events like this. And by the way, if you don't want to stand up and talk in front of your friends, call me, call Kimberly, call one of us because we're happy to do it. And volunteer and end censorship. We cannot let people keep us quiet. Yeah. You know what, Mary Holland, our CEO, is a very accomplished attorney, and she reminds us that the courts follow public opinion. And I honestly had never thought that, but she's registered with the Supreme Court. She's a very accomplished attorney, and she said absolutely the courts follow public opinion. So it's very important that we don't let Democrats keep us silent. And Democrats or anybody who doesn't believe the true science. One more point I want to make is that never has anyone studied the cumulative effect of the entire vaccine schedule. So you've got the 5-day tests on individual vaccines. Never has anyone taken all 70 doses and looked at vaccinated and unvaccinated children. So don't ever let anyone tell you that they're safe, effective, and the science is settled.
Can I interrupt? So, want to mention to you, and you've got to leave some copies here, so there's not one for everybody. But if you want to know who all of your officials are, we keep that information here. We have for Pima County, we have for our U.S. government, your legislators, your congressional, how to get in contact, all in this little booklet.
Great.
Hey, and to build on that, there's a AZ Maha Grassroots Coalition that I'm affiliated with. We had an opportunity to sit down with Andy Biggs a couple of weeks ago and have a very frank conversation with him about health freedom and these issues. And so I fully support what you're doing, and thank you for interjecting, because we need to be involved. And honestly, the legislators love to hear from you.
Oh, they do.
Except maybe for one Democrat in this area who will never take my call and will never respond to an email. And I would also, okay, I'm gonna name names. Mark Kelly also. It cracks me up because you send him a personal note about something you're passionate about, and you get back a response that has nothing to do with the issue you wrote about. So anyway, please be active and engaged. So, I'm here for questions. Yes?
I have a question. You know, I received as many here vaccinations as a kid. As far as I know, I didn't have any reaction. So are they making them differently now, or is it because of the amount that are being given out that you have this issue?
Well, I don't think we really know. And you said it yourself. I didn't have any reactions that I know of.
Right.
So I have really bad allergies. Is that because that was just a roll of the dice, or is that because I had 3 vaccinations when I was a kid?
Yeah. I'm just wondering if they're making them different now. I mean, to mass produce them, are they? I don't know how.
Well,
I don't know.
Kimberly, feel free to jump. Feel free to jump in on this. I think for the most part they were similar to the early vaccinations, but now with the mRNA technology, I would be very, very careful.
Yeah.
Very careful. Yes.
Wasn't it in the 60s that they introduced the large fetal cells in the vaccines?
I don't know when they introduced that. Do you know, Kimberly, when they introduced the fetal cells?
Whether they introduced
No,
them
when.
Oh, I don't know which vaccines they're in.
It's just so omnipresent now, I don't know. Okay. I know that we also talked about animal vaccines, and I have 2 dogs, a cat, and 2 horses, so it's a topic near and dear to me. I am very particular. I would prefer to never vaccinate any of my animals again, which is a problem because rabies is required at a minimum. But I would encourage you to look for Dr. Marty on YouTube. He's an East Coast veterinarian, and he talks about how years ago they used to have to amputate cats' legs all the time. And they noticed that it was on the quadrant where they were giving vaccinations. And so then the industry standard became, give it in the tail, because it'll be easier on them to live without a tail. So I have not gone into that in depth. And I will tell you that at least 25 years ago, I had a large animal vet tell me, why would you vaccinate this horse, this 17-year-old horse? He's had vaccines all his life. If he doesn't have immunity by now, why would you vaccinate him again and risk some type of reaction? So it's interesting. I've had more flexibility with veterinarians over the years than I have with human doctors.
Yeah, because there's.
I was just gonna say, I have a 22-year-old cat now who's never had a vaccine.
Oh,
She's still going, yep, Pongo Bongo, she's still going.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Did you hear her question, her point? That most vets won't see you unless the cats are vaccinated. So how has your cat gotten to 22 years of age? Did you find a vet who will see it?
No, I don't take her to the vet.
And honestly, when Paul Thomas is talking about, baby visits and pediatricians, he's rather frank in saying, just don't take your kid to the doctor unless you need a doctor.
Unless you need stitches or something
Don't
like
go in
that,
to get some feel-good.
Right.
That's a good check.
So how many vaccines are in our food supply?
Oh, that's a great question. I frankly don't know. And not only in our food supply, but they are aerosolizing vaccines as well and spraying areas where rabies might be rampant. And so we don't know. We honestly don't know. And I would suggest that we also need to look at geoengineering because they are dumping stuff in the skies. And we know there's barium, strontium, aluminum. We don't know what else there is. Yes?
Are placebos important? You had a lot of charts where they said there were no placebo. What does that mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
This lady has 2 beautiful children. If she wanted to test whether they were sensitive to the measles shot, she would never do this, but if she how would you know if she vaccinated both of them? And so you have one who acts as the placebo. That one's just gonna grow up and she vaccinates her son and sees, is he developing at the same rate and the same capabilities as the one who's unvaccinated. So the placebo, in pharmaceuticals, it's probably a sugar pill.
It should, what?
A sugar pill.
Sugar.
Yeah, in fact, there's a great study on knee surgery. Because placebo is oftentimes your mind can help you heal from things. And so an orthopedic surgeon had a bunch of patients who needed similar knee surgery. And he took some, did the full surgery, arthroscopic surgery. He took another group and he just made little incisions on the skin so it looked like they had had arthroscopic surgery. And then there was the group that he didn't do anything to. The group that had just the little incisions experienced great improvement in their knee pain. And so they weren't a true placebo because they believed that they had gotten the same treatment.
The brain is amazing.
Yes, yes.
I was just gonna add to that, that when they do injections, a placebo would be saline.
Thank you.
Saline
Yes.
injection. And the other thing I was gonna add to that is they sometimes compare not using placebos to saying, okay, we're testing brandy and we wanna know if it causes more automobile accidents and we're gonna test it against whiskey. It's like, and then it shows that there's no difference. And then they say, great, brandy's great for people who want to drive.
I am going to steal that comparison because that's great. And in those charts, you would often see that it was the Hep B vaccine, and they were testing it against a prior version of Hep B. It's the same thing. It's not unadulterated injection. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
I don't know if you're aware, but I was listening to Clay and Buck today on 790.
I'm sorry, you were listening to
I was listening to Clay and Buck on 790 AM. And apparently MAHA, the DOJ, in collusion with the DOJ, have until May 11th. That's when the statute of limitations to prosecute Fauci is. So expect that maybe to happen. They've already got his assistant.
Right.
Now he's on the chopping block.
You know, I hope you're right. I hope something happens. But I am a bit of a pessimist. I don't see a lot of people actually being held accountable. The assistant. Yeah, I don't remember, but yes, he's already done. Yeah, that's wonderful. Wonderful.
And you heard about the carnival cruise, rat disease. There's a carnival cruise where people are dying.
Well, that's the antivirus. That's the antivirus.
is spelled out?
Hantavirus.
HANTA, and it's commonly found, I mean, you could be out looking for opinion nuts, and you're looking in the dirt, and you can pick up the virus. Yeah. Now, I know that's going on. I haven't had time to read anything about it, other than the fact I saw a couple of comments on one of our mutual threads this morning. So Kimberly, can you talk to that, what they're saying about it?
Well, just that you can't patch it. You can't patch it through a contagion because it's physically from the actual feces of the rats. And so they're trying to spin it as though something is contagious because then you can be afraid and want to go get a vaccine for it.
But it could have been weaponized.
No, you can only get it from the mouse poop
Or it could be something else entirely, I think, as
What
well.
I'm saying is,
Poison people.
they could have weaponized it, we don't know.
No, you can't get it from person to person.
But you can still weaponize a virus.
If you got a whole bunch of mice, rats.
Well, yeah, you can do anything possible.
You can poison people for sure.
Do we have any other questions? Was this worth your time this morning? Kimberly has her card out front. I have cards as well if you'd like to stay in contact with us. I do encourage you to at least get on our mailing list for the newsletter because we do report on what legislation is going and when we need a call to action, when we want to say, hey, Governor House, we thought you were for bottle layout on me. So please
And if you know anybody that's pregnant or expecting children or have really young children, pick up some extra flyers that you can share with your family.
Yeah, great idea. Okay, thank you, everybody.